So another huge name with whom you have a friendship is Charles Bronson. Anything we've done on him has just gone crazy viral on the channel. How did that come about?
Charles Salvador, as he is now, I mean, his original name was Michael Peterson. I got to know him through a guy called Steve Parnell, who used to do my websites in Gateshead. He did the very first Geordie Connection website when I was plugging my very first book. He was originally the web the web domain holder and boffin, I used to call him, for Dave Courtney. He did Dave Courtney's very first website, davecourtney.com, when websites were a big thing.
Is that still going, that one?
I'm not sure if it is, but it was.
I've been on a website of Dave's, and it's
yeah. I mean, that was. I mean, he held the domain name and everything, and Dave had met Charlie, and that's where the intro came from. And I got a phone call off Dave Courtney one weekend, and he said, "Steve, I've got a bit of an issue in your neck of the woods. Can you help us out?" And I'm always a bit, what's going on? What does he want me to do? But it was, Dave would never put me in a position where it was anything serious. But literally it was that Steve Richards, who I've mentioned, who did the Viv Graham books, was managing Charlie at the time. And they had a bit of a fallout. So basically all he said was, I'd like you to get Charlie's stuff from Steve. He lives near you. If I can get you a address, will you go up and get the stuff? So that was it, really. I basically had to ring Steve Richards, just speak to him and say, look, I've been asked to get like Charlie's belongings. He went, you do realise there's like boxes and boxes loads and I'm going to have to sort it out. And I was going, well, I says, but it's not really my problem. I just need the stuff. I've been asked to get it. And then I said, I've been given an address where it's got to go to. Well, I could do that. I says, no. I said, I've been told that I need to get it. So I said, if I can just follow the instructions and I'll come and get it. So that's what we did. There was no real hassle. Steve had obviously had his altercation with Charlie, and, they were never going to make up, and that was that. So yeah, I went and got the stuff. We collected it, took it to Steve Parnell's, we sorted it all out, and sent it off to the relevant person who required it. I think his mum got some of it, and his sister at the time got some of it, and that was where the relationship started. And Charlie wrote to us, thanks very much for all you've done, and owe you a favour, and that was it. I then was on his list, if you like. He started sending artwork out, he started sending letters out. And then he was asking us what my connection was with Dave. I told him that I was involved with a guy called Steve who was doing his website. Oh, a website. I'd like a website. And that was it. That was when we helped Charlie get into the new, move into the modern era, we give him an internet presence. And for 6 months, I was asked to be his manager. I got an offer in a letter. I'd like you to run me affairs. I would like you to help us out with, different things that I'm doing. And that was it. I agreed. I thought, it can't do any harm. It'll be interesting building the website up. Maybe do what I'd done with the craze, t-shirts and stuff like that. And, it could become lucrative. I could make some money out of it. So I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. And I was never going to say no. I thought it would be interesting. And he was an interesting character, although I didn't know a great deal about him other than he'd gone inside for something relatively minor, and that he'd been inside and kept inside behind a cage because of his behaviour in prison. And that was it. But in that 6 month spell, I was on a bit of a roller coaster. He was quite demanding back in those days. He would ask you to do this and do that and do the other, and he would expect it done immediately. Similar to what I'd gone through with the craze. Reg was, quite demanding, didn't understand the concept of, if he wanted me to go and do something in Nottingham, that I would have to get to Nottingham. I'd have to get a train. I didn't drive, so I'd have to get on a train, and I couldn't just do that overnight. I'd have to book a ticket. There was no concept of time. And Charlie was a bit like that back in those days, of quite impulsive, but he was also listening to a lot of people around him. And as I've already described earlier on, people like Tell in London, there was numerous people like that hanging around Charlie who had their nose pushed out because they felt like he was stepping on their toes. These people who surround gangsters think there's like an imaginary ladder where they've got to get to the top of it to be number one. I don't understand that, because that's not what I'm about. I'm not somebody who feels I've got to please, gangsters or criminals or...
Have you ever read the 48 Laws of Power?
No.
It talks about the courtiers.
Right.
And the tricks they do on each other to try and get the attention of the king.
It's very similar then.
Yeah, it's
very
exactly
similar.
what you're describing.
Well, that is
it's diabolical, the games and the schemes they come up with.
And you see, because I'm somebody who's got an interest in crime, who's, got off his backside and actually sat and, maybe he's done a documentary or written a book, then maybe he's looked at as a threat to those people. And that's what's happened. That's what happened in the Bronson circle, but it happened quicker than it did within the Cray circle. And I found myself embroiled in an argument between two factions, which had nothing to do with me. And I ended up being the scapegoat. I ended up getting used. Steve Wright sided with that person, and Charlie took offence. You shouldn't have got involved in this. You've taken the side of that person. And very quickly, the relationship went from being, somebody who he was sending letters to and writing to and picking up the phone to and asking for favours and designing a website to, I don't want anything to do with you, you're a rat.
Sean Atwood is the man who talks to gangsters, drug lords, and mafia bosses. Sit-Downs with Gangsters, out now in all good bookstores and available worldwide on Amazon.
Insanely real true stories, hard-hitting podcasts, and we interview experts on everything from aliens to the royal family. Our detailed podcasts feature true stories that take our viewers on long emotional journeys and educate young people about the dangers of gangs, drugs, crime, and prison. We also cover current events and big news stories. In our podcasts, we mostly interview people who have committed or survived crimes to reveal the horror of what those bad choices led to. These podcasts are usually published at 7 p.m. UK on Sundays. We have regular popular live streams with a panel of commentators on the royal family.